Hello folks and welcome to Tuneful Tuesdays, and before we get to the subject of the day or of the video, which is a new Masterworks, I would like to go trivia, I think. Now last week we entered into the realm of politics with music, and I think we'll stick with it for this particular week. We're going to look at the ex-UK Prime Minister, one Tony Blair. Now, Tony Blair used to be in a band. The band was called Ugly Rumours. What role did ex-UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, what role did that man play in the band Ugly Rumours? And yes, I ain't kidding, he was in a band. So, what role did he play? Answers at the end of this video. In between then, we're going to look at Masterworks. And welcome to this week's Masterworks. And if you're a fan of Roxy music, well, you might like this one. This is the first solo album by Bryan Ferry. The album was released on the Virgin label and it was called Boys and Girls. Now the suite of guest stars that occupy this album, well, it's quite a sight to behold, I have to say. Of course, names behind any album's star do not guarantee success. If anything, their egos sometimes get in the way. Here, the talent certainly added plenty of musical glitz and chrome to the Ferry style. So we had people like David Gilmour, we had Omar Hakim, who played with people like David Bowie and Madonna. We had Neil Hubbard, who played with Joe Cocker, B.B. King and the like. We had Mark Knopfler. We had Tony Levine. We had Nile Rodgers, David Sanborn, and many, many more, adding their star weights to the project. Thing is, though, I'm not sure they were actually needed. For many fans, this solo work, which was released in 1985, was the first solo release to appear from Ferry after the official demise of his band Roxy Music. And it was actually a continuation of Roxy Music's final LP release, Avalon. Now, fan enthusiasm knew no bounds as this release was lifted towards the #1 spot in the UK charts on the heels of his mega hit single Slave to Love, and that certainly helped the album's success, while the follow-up single Don't Stop the Dance, well, that didn't harm matters either, as that peaked at number 21. It was a busy time for Ferry and one packed with creative quality. It was also one stuffed with personal emotion because during the making of this particular album, Ferry's dad, Frederick Charles Ferry, unfortunately passed away. Now, to properly understand this album, you have to understand the last Roxy Music album, Avalon. Thing is, Roxy Music hadn't been getting on for years and years. Ferry wanted the group to be a vehicle for his ideas, but the rest of the guys, well, they understandably wanted a more democratic forum. The subsequent friction was, for a time, welcomed by Ferry as a sort of grist to the creative mill. It produced great work, as it were. Nevertheless, Ferry thought that creative infusion, well, he thought it had run its course at the end of Avalon. As he said himself, it just got on the wrong side of being right. with those band breakup memories still in his head, finding the right path for this subsequent solo effort, well, it was tough. As Ferry said at the time, I really do want to sound different from other people. Unfortunately, it means you spend 18 months making a record because you think of an idea and then you have to go beyond it and then go beyond that until it gets to the point where you think you're happy with it. And then you think, have I gone too far? I never reach the point where I think my records are completely perfect. Usually, I just get exhausted and reluctantly let go of them, which is where a deadline helps. Thing is, it didn't, because this album was continually delayed. It missed at least 5 of those deadlines before the actual release occurred, ultimately leaving his music in a sort of unresolved state was, and most probably is, the Ferry way, which leaves a sense of insecurity, a sense of self-doubt that's at odds with his tabloid-friendly image of cool and suavity. Maybe this is why so many star names backed him on this LP, just to give him an infusion of confidence. Yet, as with his Roxy times, that conflict fashioned, well, a superb album, at times sounding like Avalon Redux. Boys and Girls does try to step beyond the movie set-like mythic fantasy ambience of Avalon to a more angular and leaner, funkier presentation. While the tendrils of Avalon do extend into the core of Boys and Girls, the feeling that Ferry has a new gang in tow, it's important to his overall sound. The break from the past can sound a little obvious, maybe slightly cack-handed. Mark Knopfler's signature guitar work on the track Valentine, for example, helps Ferry to draw a line in the sand, sure, but its effect is not exactly subtle. I would have actually liked to have seen Ferry dump the stars and the glitz to create a no-name backing band all of his own. After all, it's what he seemingly always wanted, to be in charge, completely, wholly. Even so, Boys and Girls remains different enough to represent a turn in the road and a continued break with the past. Now, you can pick up this album, new, shiny, and resplendent in the finest of shrink wraps, as part of a larger release project that covers Ferry's first 6 solo albums. This release splurge only occurred a few months ago and included These Foolish Things, originally released in 1973, Another Time, Another Place from 74, Let's Stick Together from 76, In Your Mind from 77, and The Bride Stripped Bare from 78, and of course, Boys and Girls 1985, remastered from the original master tapes at Abbey Road, cut by Frank Arkwright, and featuring enhanced versions of the original artwork overseen by Bryan Ferry himself. Grab a copy, I'm sure you'll love it, especially if you like Roxy music. But before I go, you're going to want a trivia answer, aren't you? And we were looking at Ugly Rumours. This was the band which was occupied by ex-UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. He was in this band called Ugly Rumours. Question is, what was his role in this band? Now, Ugly Rumours were formed at Oxford University in the early 70s. Blair got the job because none of the rest of the band fancied singing, and he arrived at the audition having carefully written out the lyrics to songs such as the Rolling Stones' Live With Me. Fellow member Mark Ellen, who you may remember as a presenter on the Old Grey Whistle Test from the BBC, remembers him taken to the stage at the Corpus Christi Alternative Ball wearing low-slung flares, bearing his midriff, and wagging his finger at the audience, Mick Jagger style. I'm not sure I'll look at Sir Tony Blair in the same light ever again. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this video. And can I just remind you, down in the depths in the description, if you want to skip around this video, if you want to navigate, there are chapter headings you can click upon. There are also a host of links to the likes of my Facebook group, which you're welcome to join. Also, my website, which has all kinds of stuff over there you won't see here. And if you can support me on Patreon, which keeps this channel going, I'd really appreciate that. There's all kinds of exclusive stuff over there too. Have a little looky, see what you think. Now I'll be back at the weekend-ish with something hi-fi flavoured, and I hope you can join me then. Until that time, folks, bye-bye for now.